So this morning, I'm going to talk about the top tips to write the ultimate website brief that your agency will love. Okay, so before we delve in, just want to kind of let you know that we're recording this session. So I'll send over a recording and the slide deck after once it's all wrapped up. Also, throughout the session, I'll just plow through the content, but please feel free to pop any questions you have into the chat, and I'll happily try my best to answer those at the end. And then I also just want to mention that I'm going to talk about this topic fairly broadly. So I appreciate there are people from kind of different businesses, different sectors here today. So hopefully this is all relevant to you, but obviously just appreciate that there could be a wide variation of you listening today. And then finally, please get involved on social. Would love to hear your thoughts on this content, so you can tag us and use our hashtag as shown on screen. So over the next kind of half hour or so, I'm going to talk about the kind of the why, who, and how to writing a brief. I'm going to go through each element that we love to see within your website briefs, and then I'm going to leave you with my website template so that actually you get to start this process yourself and actually flesh out your requirements within a template form. So let's get into it. Please start using the chat, and I'm going to kind of ask you a question as we get started. So kind of what attracted you to this webinar today? Is it because you're actually writing a website brief at the moment, or maybe just generally interested in the topic, or maybe you're struggling to actually put your requirements down on paper? Whatever it is, just pop it in the chat now. It'd be really good to kind of understand why you've chosen to attend today. And whilst you do that, just a quick intro to myself. So I'm Will. I founded a digital agency called Webbox over 13 years ago now. And I guess one of my roles is actually kind of meeting with new and existing clients and helping them to define their requirements. So that's something I'm really passionate about, and I love doing day to day. And I've been lucky enough to work with some brands such as Fevertree, the NHS, Airbus, St John Ambulance, to name a few, to actually help them define their requirements and actually deliver projects successfully for them. So that's why I'm here today talking on this topic. So first of all, let's get into this content. Why write a brief? Okay, you might think to yourself that you don't need one, but I would love to kind of open your eyes today to actually say it's really important. And it's important for these reasons. It's important to actually outline your requirements, which is obviously, obvious to most people, but I would say that actually a lot of people haven't quite grasped that. So we need to have an understanding of your basic requirements within this website brief, but without being too, kind of touchy-feely about it. It needs to be a little bit more pragmatic, we feel, this document. Now, it also helps to avoid any misunderstanding. So if you've got potentially some requirements and you haven't written those down, and maybe halfway through the project you thought something was going to happen, the agency thought something else was going to happen, those kind of situations are often a little bit awkward and uncomfortable. So it helps to have a brief to actually have a written record of your requirements so that everyone is on the same page from day one. Now, I think it also is fair to say that it's going to attract the top agencies to your project. Now, most agencies will probably ask you for a brief, and if not, they will obviously want to create one alongside you throughout the process. So really, if you're looking to work with one of the top agencies, this is a bit of a must-have. One of the other benefits, which I think sometimes, it kind of is swept under the carpet, is it allows agencies to self-qualify themselves. So if you've got a particular set of requirements within your brief, the agency will read that, and it might actually be that the agency feels they're not the best fit for the project, but maybe could refer you on to another agency that has better and more relevant experience. So I think this is a really good thing to kind of put together so that the agency has the opportunity to opt themselves in or out of this process from day one. And finally, if we're all honest, it's good to put that brief together, because what you'll get is some proposals back from agencies, which hopefully include some ideas that you might not have thought of before. So allow the agency to kind of put those ideas to you, to give you what's trending at the moment and what's important for your website in your sector in the here and now. Now, in terms of who should write this document, I'm a big believer that it shouldn't be someone distant from the project. So a procurement department, for example. I always vividly remember years ago, we won a project in the public sector, and it went through a procurement department, and they wrote a very, very long and detailed document about their requirements, and we therefore pitched based on those requirements. After successfully winning that project, we got in front of the project team, which were completely different to the people we've been dealing with beforehand. And in our first meeting, they basically said, don't worry about those requirements. They've been put together, without our input. Let's build this brief from the ground up. Now, that was a crazy situation, but it does happen from time to time. So it's really important that the people involved in writing this document are those that have a direct link to the project. So it might be internally like a marketing point of contact, or a stakeholder within the business, or external, who is trying to drive this digital change, or trying to update the website for maybe business development purposes, or what have you. But it'd be really good for the person to write it to be the one that actually is maybe a point of contact throughout the entire project. So that's just in terms of who should write it. And then finally in this section, how to position the brief. Now, ultimately, you want to get the attention of the most suitable agencies. So not just every agency under the sun, because we know there's over 25,000 of them. That's not the purpose here. It's really important to get in front of the most suitable agencies. So you need to be specific within your brief to actually put sentences within it that will help agencies understand if they are appropriate for the project or not. Now, that could be putting a sentence like, we're looking for an agency that has experience in our sector and driving change, or increasing donations, increasing memberships, whatever it might be for you. But I would just put a caveat in, sometimes you might kind of say, I want to go to an agency that's sector specific, that knows our sector through and through. But sometimes they might not, reinvent the wheel every time. They will come to a project and have a particular model and a particular way to do things, and they will just do that time and time again for clients within that sector. So sometimes actually using an agency that hasn't worked in your sector might bring fresh ideas to the table. So I just want to put that out there, but it's important to make sure that you're pricking up the ears of the agencies that are most suitable. And we also want to make sure that agencies can read through the document and very quickly determine whether it's a project for them. So if you're outlining your requirements, you might say that you want an agency that specializes in WordPress, or specializes with integrations with Salesforce, or has experience with integrating with Sage, or whatever it might be, because then an agency can very quickly say, yeah, that's us, or no, it's not a project for us. But also a timescale might come into it. So you might say, actually, we've got a really hard deadline because of whatever reason. Maybe you've got a PR campaign going live on a particular date, and the website launch is imperative to that. So you might say, look, I need it live by the end of Q1 next year, and that is just non-negotiable. And then it allows the agency to say, look, yes, we can fit that in and meet that deadline, or no, we can't because of our current workload. So these are the kind of things that agencies love to see so that they can qualify themselves. But finally, it's important to note that we don't want to restrict the agency too much, because if we put too many things within that brief and stipulate too many demands, then obviously it doesn't encourage creativity. So just be aware that there's a fine balance. We want detail and we want information that's kind of imperative to helping us determine whether it's a project that we can pitch for or not. But obviously on the flip side, we want a bit of breathing space to be creative and bring new ideas to the table. So let's get into what should actually make up your website brief. And these are basically the section headings that we want to see within a website brief. So the first thing is an introduction. We want you to tell us a little bit about yourself. And I always say, don't just copy and paste a few paragraphs from your current website, go to your About Us page and just, whip that off. When we work with brands, we want to really get to know them, what makes them tick. So really write something which is specific for the purpose. Tell us a little bit about you, your journey to date, why you're actually kind of looking to consider a website project at this time. Share a bit about your values, what matters to you, because actually for Webbox here, we want to partner with companies and brands that share our values. So it's really important to kind of make sure those things align. Also tell us about your USPs, what makes you different from your competitors, and maybe a little bit about the size and structure of your business. So we love to kind of get to know businesses. One of my passions, genuinely day to day, is just meeting with different businesses of all shapes and sizes in lots of different sectors, and just getting to know, what their pain points are, what makes them tick, what's happening, what's new in their sector at the moment. So this is your opportunity to give that information to us. Now, the second heading we'd love to see is your target audience. Okay, so a website can't be all things to all men. So we need to define a target audience that will help agencies to consider how best to position the website and consider its user experience for that particular audience. So your website might not just have one audience, it might have multiple audiences. And again, that's important for an agency to be aware of, so that we can actually consider relevant proposition and a relevant user experience for a wide range of audiences. And then talk to us about kind of like, what are your key markets and what are your key service offerings? It might be that you have, quite a wide range of products or quite a wide range of services, but actually 90% of your revenue comes through 3 products or 3 services. So talk to us a little bit about that, and how your target audiences relate to those particular services, because that's going to have a direct impact on how we put forward a proposal to you. Now, the next section heading is a simple one, but important one. So what is the website address of your website? Or multiple, so we've worked with businesses in the past that have kind of, 40, 50, 60 websites. And it's important to know actually which one or which ones are part of this brief and part of this project. But then talk to us a little bit about kind of what the pain points are. So what's not working for you at the moment on that website? What's a real blocker? What is preventing you from having a higher conversion rate? But also on the flip side, tell us what you do like. So it might be that actually you like the content on the site, or you like the way that you use imagery, or you like the way that you've got a blog. Things like that are useful for us to know, so that we can make sure that those things are incorporated within the new website. Okay, the next section heading we'd love to see is objectives. So it's really important that when we come to an end of a project, we can look back and actually say, yeah, we have met and hopefully exceeded the objectives. Everyone wants to be able to measure success, right? So it's really important that we specify what success looks like at day 1. Now, it might be that you're not 100% sure, and you might want to work with an agency to help define what success should look like. But it's important that at some point this is written down so we can refer to it at the end of a project. Now, I'm a big believer in actually using numbers or statistics at this point, because we don't want to be broad and kind of high level at this point. We want to be really specific. So for some brands, it might be that you want to reduce bounce rate by 5%, or you want to increase your conversion rate by 1%, or you want to increase the number of inquiries that you receive by 10%. Whatever it is for you, it's really important to kind of put that within the brief or work with the agency to kind of get those numbers, because we want to look back on the project either straight away or 6 months after going live or wherever it might be, and actually say, yeah, we've been able to achieve that and hopefully exceed it as well. The next kind of heading within your brief are the website features. And to be honest, this is probably the meat of the website brief. This is probably going to be the longest section in terms of word count, and really should outline your requirements. Now, this is, it's important for me to say this. Some people have a really, really clear idea as to what their website needs, and others will just have maybe a broad idea as to what they need. It's no problem either way, okay? You know, give us as much information as you can, and then we can build upon it. So for example, I'll take an elementary example. It might be in your brief that you say, I need a news or a blog section. And that's all you kind of know at this stage. Well, that's fine, that's cool. Pop it in your brief, and then the agency can work with you to kind of build upon that. But if you know exactly what you need, then put the detail in, right? So, you know, you could say, I need a blog, and I need the ability to be able to kind of make a post sticky. I need the ability to assign a blog post to an author. That author can have a bio and a description page. I need the ability to create a blog post today, but for it to go live in 2 days' time, so I want to schedule it. I need the ability for the blog to have rich media within it. I've got loads of video content. I want to put videos on my blog all the time. These are the kind of things that if you know them, pop it in, because it always helps the agency with defining the scope. So yeah, this is a big section. Fit it in as much as you can, and hopefully we can work together, or you can work with your agency to help kind of pad that out, so we've got a full specification in terms of the features that you need. Now, coupled with that, kind of stemming off it, is all about kind of the integrations. So for some of you listening today and watching on catch up, it might be that actually this is not relevant. The website doesn't need to integrate with any third party. That's fine. But actually, if you do need it to, it's really important to specify this. So let me give you a practical example. If someone's going to sign up to your newsletter, you might want that sign up to go directly into your mail provider, such as MailChimp. Or it might be that when an inquiry comes in, you want it to go straight into your CRM, such as Pipedrive or Salesforce. Or when an order is made, you want the order information and customer data to go straight into Sage, your accounting platform. Now, all of these kind of things require an integration between the website and that third party. So it's important to kind of specify that. And coupled with that is whether there's kind of automation involved. So let me give you an example. If an order is made, then is there automation to actually send the order through to Sage, send maybe stock quantities back, send order confirmations when things are shipped? You know, all that kind of stuff might just happen in the background without manual intervention. Okay, so if you need any automation, this is your opportunity to put the information within the brief. The next part that we'd love to see is all about content. Okay, so at this stage you might not know, and that's fine, no problem. But again, if you do, it would be good to have an idea as to the pages that you think the website would have, and whether you're going to actually write the content, or whether you're going to migrate it from the existing website to the new website, or whether you want the agency to do that. And also, if you've got a multilingual website, then actually who's going to provide the translation? Do you want the agency to look for a translator, or that agency might have translation services in-house? Or do you want to provide that translation to the agency yourselves? So just think about content. Now, I know here at Webbox, we run a kind of a workshop for this, where we kind of help you define the content that you require, help you put that into a sitemap, and then map all of those pages through to kind of different page layouts. But it might be that actually you know exactly what you're looking for, and you want to kind of just pass that through to us within your brief. If so, that's great. Pop it in, and we can take a look at it. Otherwise, it can be a section where you can leave blank, and we can work with you to help define those requirements. Okay, the next section is timeline. Now, this is one which could potentially be a qualification criteria for some agencies. So if you're working to a particular deadline, it's really important to kind of specify that within the brief. It might be that you need the website to go live by a particular date or by a particular month for reasons outside of maybe your control, or maybe to coincide with another launch. That's absolutely fine. Please feel free to put that within the brief. Alternatively, it might be that you're actually open to the agency suggesting a timescale. And again, if that's the case, then just specify that within the brief and the agency can come back to you to propose a suitable project plan. Now, one thing I would say is on your side, on the brand side of things, don't necessarily use that as a qualification criteria. So what I mean by that is if one agency says it's going to take 3 months and another agency says it's going to take 5 months, it's definitely worth a conversation to kind of get under the skin as to kind of why the agencies have chosen those timescales, because it might not be that actually the agency that said 5 months is just going to take longer. It might just be that they've got a higher workload and they're trying to set your expectations, or there could be other reasons under that. So don't use that as a qualification criteria and look at it on face value. It's always worth a conversation with the agency just to understand why they've put that timescale together. So yeah, that's timescale. And the next section is all about budget. So we always ask what the budget of the project includes and what you're expecting that to include. So for example, it might be that you've got a budget for the website project, but that doesn't include ongoing hosting and support. Now you might ask, well, why do you ask this? Now an experienced agency will know what can be delivered within a particular budget, and this will likely dictate what's proposed to you within your proposal. So for example, working with a higher budget allows us to spend more time on user experience, allows us to arrange workshops to get stakeholder feedback. It might even allow us to kind of think of kind of creative ways to do things that you haven't thought of before, or kind of integrate things which are a little bit more cutting edge, like progressive lead forms, chatbots, etc. Or it might even allow us to say we could use some of this budget towards a digital marketing campaign as well. Now, if your budget is lower, we might need to then reduce the scope of work, and we might need to say, look, we understand your requirements are X, Y, and Z, but we can only deliver X and Y within that budget. So actually specifying a budget or even a price range, however vague, is the best way to start that relationship with the agency. And it's also a really good way to share your values of being transparent. I know at Webbox, one of our values is actually to be brutally transparent. And we want to start off at day one, partnering with our clients and making sure that that value comes through. So for us, this is not about you saying you've got a budget of X and then we quote just a little bit lower than that. This is about kind of just being sensible to say, right, this is what we can deliver within that budget. And it might be that some of the requirements fall outside of that budget and might need to be looked at as a phase 2. So let's not be shy about this topic. I think it's one which is good to kind of have a conversation about kind of early on to make sure that, expectations are aligned. But also as well, it's good to have the conversation early on, because some agencies have a bit of a minimum threshold and they might say, look, we just can't work on projects less than X. So to not waste your time, it's sometimes better to have that conversation up front. And I love using that image as well, because I know everyone puts their poker face on when we have this conversation, but I'm a big believer that we should be a little bit more transparent when it comes to budget. Okay, next section within the brief is all about your competitors, okay? So tell us a little bit about who are your direct competitors, and maybe slightly broader than that, who are the main players within the sector, okay? Now you might give us a list of website addresses alongside that, and you might kind of specify, what specifically you like about their website. So you might give us a link to a competitor and say, actually, I love the way that they've built their navigation, or I love the way that they've got a video on the homepage, for example. That's helpful just because it, again, aligns everyone's expectations in terms of the kind of websites that you like and the elements that you like, so that we can make sure we can deliver that within the design phase of the project. So that would be great. And just as a quick aside, I've chosen that image because I've got two kids. They are 2 and 5 years old. And they always deem themselves competitors. They're always battling between each other. They always want what the other one's got. So I thought it was relevant on that basis. Okay, coming towards the end now. So the next part of the brief is who is going to be the main point of contact for the project, okay? Important to know that, so we know whether we're dealing with one person your side, or maybe a group, or even external stakeholders. So it'd be helpful to know that. But also on the flip side, don't be shy to ask who the point of contact is going to be on the agency side. So they might have a dedicated project manager or account manager that you'll deal with, or they might have direct access to developers or designers for particular workshops. So it's really important just so you get an understanding as to how that relationship is going to go moving forward. Next part is the process in which you're going to take for this project. So it's important for the agency to have an understanding as to how you're going to mark the proposal or kind of review proposals. So some organizations say, look, you know, we're really focused on the agency's experience, and really we're kind of, you know, going to kind of, I guess, move towards agencies that have hyper relevant experience. Or some people are focused solely on price and they go, look, do you know what, for us, it's just looking for an agency that can work within our budget. Or for others, it might be all about methodology, and it might be about a case of I'm looking for an agency that can deliver this within an agile methodology. Or for others, it could be all about kind of just ideas, you know, which agency can, you know, blow my mind and kind of come up with the best ideas. It would just be good to kind of have an understanding as to how you're going to assess the proposals, and also then to outline the kind of dates in which you want things to happen. So this is just practical stuff, right? So this is like, we want the proposals returned to us by this date, and we're going to try and shortlist agencies by this date. We might then have some follow-up calls or even a presentation on this date, and then we're looking to commence the project on this date. And that's really helpful, so an agency can just make sure that they've got enough time to kind of schedule everything in, maybe to have a meeting with you and to write a proposal and make sure that they can deliver all of this within your time expectations. And finally, the final part to put within this brief is, what do you actually want agencies to come back to you with? Okay, so hopefully we haven't got to carry 2 large boxes of papers, but we want to have an understanding as to what you're looking for in terms of deliverables at this stage. So in practical terms, is that just a proposal, you know, a document outlining, you know, what you're going to deliver? Or do you want to see 3 case studies, maybe, for kind of hyper-relevant projects? Do you want maybe a couple of couple of testimonials from previous clients? Do you even maybe want their contact details so that you can ring them and say, look, you know, what was your experience like? Just give us a bit of information about what you want us to come back with. And even maybe sometimes the format. I know some organizations will actually say, look, you know, you need to fill out our template, or you can use your own designed templates, you know, wherever it might be. But this is kind of really helpful to make sure that when the agency comes to submit their proposal or tender document, that they're submitting everything that you're looking for, okay? So that is everything that we would love to see within your brief. And what we've done here at Webbox is we've actually put together a template so that you can basically fill out the sections really simply and then kind of send it off to your agency of choice, okay? So after this, I'm going to send everyone here a copy of this template, and I hope that, you know, it's useful to you as you might be considering a website project moving forward. But I also want to kind of offer my help if I can, and I do this totally impartially. So if you're currently looking to go ahead with a website project and you're putting a website brief together, I'm more than happy to look over it, even if it's not a project that Webbox can actually undertake. I'll be more than happy to look at that just from a pragmatic point of view to make sure that you've got all of the information and relevant sections within that brief. So there's my email address. Feel free to pop that over to me. I'll be more than happy to take a look. So the final section really is just to say, like, if you've got any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat or send me an email or even connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd be more than happy to answer your questions, but I certainly hope that most of this content has been quite self-explanatory today and just gives you a really good steer to how you can write your own website brief. All right. So I just want to say finally, thank you ever so much for taking the time out of your day today to listen to this webinar. I really appreciate that, and I hope that the content is helpful to you. So I will leave you to write your own website briefs, and I look forward to hopefully looking over some of them as well and giving you some feedback. So thank you once again, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day.